name is Jeremy Counselor, and I have the privilege to serve as the Dean of Baylor Law School. I want to welcome all of you to the Fall 2024 Commencement for Baylor Law School and to this celebration of your graduates' remarkable accomplishment. We will begin our ceremony by calling forward Mr. Connor Porter for the invocation. Connor.
Please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for this day of great celebration, for the graduates, their families, and their friends. Today, the graduating class takes a monumentous step in entering the legal profession, which is at its core a serving profession. By your grace, they worked incredibly hard to get here, making their way through an educational gauntlet that only Baylor lawyers understand. Some of us have spouses, children, lives put on hold for 3 years, and some of us are starting on a path to a first career. But when getting through the day seemed impossible, we would stop and remember why we chose Baylor Law: to serve. Lord, please let us reflect on Paul's words in Romans. Offer yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life. Offer every part of yourself to him as an instrument of righteousness, for sin shall no longer be your master, because you are not under the law, but under grace. Remind us that we use the law to serve, and we do so with the grace of Christ as our North Star. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. Welcome again to our commencement and to the historic First Baptist Church of Waco. Connor, that was a lovely prayer. Connor was selected by the graduating class to give the invocation. And a little later on, we will hear from Max Tenney, who is the #1 student in the graduating class. You may have concluded from the size of this graduating class that Baylor is a small law school, and you've concluded correctly. We are one of the smallest law schools in the country on purpose. We don't want to be large. We think having a small student body helps us do what we think is most important, which is to prepare students for the practice of law and the legal profession. We have about 400 students total. We are small, but we are mighty. Baylor University was established in 1845 by the Republic of Texas. The law school was established in 1857, one of the first law schools west of the Mississippi. We have made tremendous achievements as a law school. Our bar passage rate is unparalleled nationwide. We are considered a top law school in the country. And for the last 15 years, we've been ranked as one of the top 5 law schools nationally in trial advocacy. And recently, a magazine ranked us #1 in the nation among law schools for practical training, which is a good recognition because we do want to provide practical training to our students. We also do something a little different than most law schools, which is, and this explains the small graduating class in the fall, you're right to conclude that we're a small law school, but not so small as 7 graduates would indicate. We graduate between about 130 and 140 students per year. The fall 2024 commencement class is a little bit smaller than most, but they too, I know them all, they too are mighty and are going to accomplish great things. Now, here's another thing you may have concluded by the 7 graduates we have here today, that this ceremony will be shorter than some of the 3-hour-long affairs you may have attended at arenas and stadiums. And that is correct. On the other hand, everyone who speaks at this lectern today will be a lawyer. So no promises, no promises. But I think you'll find that this is very intimate, kind of personal commencement ceremony that is going to make all of you a lot of very fine memories. Students, I can see as I look out upon all your loved ones, your parents and your grandparents, they have a lot of pride on their faces right now, and that is as it should be. Family, I would encourage you to look inside the commencement program and see the sentiments that the graduates have left for you. Most of them are about you and thanking you because the graduates know something that is very important, that they wouldn't be here without you. You helped bring them to this place. You raised them in a way that would allow them to accomplish something like this, and you supported them throughout law school. We challenge them. We put them through the ringer. We make no apologies for it, but we also know that you have been there to help all along the way. And so, graduates, consistent with our tradition, I ask you now to stand, turn, and thank your family members and your friends who allowed you to reach this milestone. Please be seated. One of the things that, as lawyers, we are very proud of, and it's an important responsibility. All of us as citizens have a responsibility to be guardians of the rule of law, but lawyers have a special responsibility to be guardians of the rule of law. That's something that we tell our law students and have told them for a very, very long time, since our founding. But one of the things that we recognize and have always recognized here at our graduation is that in order to have a nation in which the rule of law thrives, that place, that nation must be defended. And so we recognize the relationship between lawyers and the rule of law and those who have served our country in uniform in one or the other or another branch of the U.S. military. I want to start by recognizing a member of our own class. Andrew Oliver, please stand. Andrew is a member of this graduating class, and he served in the United States Marine Corps from 2016 to 2020. Andrew, thank you for your service to our country. And Andrew, I'll ask you to remain standing, and I would like for anyone present here in the audience who has served, is serving, or is about to join a branch of the U.S. military, whether Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, Space Force, Coast Guard, to please stand so that we may honor you and thank you. Thank you all. I am now going to introduce the members, the people in the stage party. You have biographies of them in the program, and I'm not going to read those, and I'm not even going to try to hit all of the highlights, but I do want to say a few things about the people, some of the people sitting behind me. I'm going to start with Associate Dean Pat Wilson is here. Dean Wilson has been a longtime member of our faculty since 1993. She's taught employment law and family law, among many other courses. She has been a leader at the law school for a long time, including serving as our interim dean. She is now part of the law school's senior leadership team and is involved in all aspects of the operations of the law school. We just couldn't do this without Pat Wilson. I want to introduce the other member of our senior leadership team, which is Senior Assistant Dean Angela Cruz-Turner, who's sitting here to your right. Angela is a Baylor lawyer who is just a leader in all things. She oversees virtually all aspects of the operation of the law school, alumni relations, career development, marketing, and many other different departments of the law school. Hers is a career marked by service, servant leadership. She has served as the president of the McLennan County Young Lawyers Association and the Abner McCall Inn of Court in the past. And as I said about Pat, we just couldn't do the things that we do without Dean Cruz-Turner. Also sitting behind me is Professor Liz Fraley, who will be our commencement speaker for today, so I'm going to save my remarks about Liz Fraley until she gets a chance to speak. One of the things that you're going to see when your graduate walks across the stage is that they will be hooded. When you have earned certain advanced degrees, one of the honors that you receive is that you receive the longer hood. And the graduating class chooses amongst the people on our faculty and staff who hold the JD degree, who will have the honor of hooding them. And so the two people that they have chosen are Professor Jim Wren and Director Catherine Sims. So Professor Wren, oh, there you are, Jim, sorry, I lost track of you there, which is something they never do, lose track of Professor Jim Wren. Professor Wren, you look at his bio, the accolades are lengthy and impressive. He is the director of our practice court program. His accomplishments are too numerous, as I said, to name, but here are just a few. He has, on many, many occasions, consistently been designated a Texas super lawyer. He is the president of the National Board of Trial Advocacy. In 2016, he was named the Mentor of the Year by the Waco-McLennan County Young Lawyers Association. And in 2012, the university recognized him as an outstanding professor at the university, which is a rare honor indeed, although not so rare on our faculty, but generally speaking, it's rare, and so a very high honor. Director Catherine Sims is also a Baylor lawyer, and she directs our student affairs. We want students to be challenged, as I've said, but we also want them to thrive while they're in law school, and Catherine Sims spearheads the thriving part, making sure that they're okay. And so she spends a lot of time out in the hallways just making contact with students, taking their temperature. She is also a part of a lot of other decisions we make at the law school. She's part of our leadership team that students I don't think get to see, but they see her out in the hallways, and she is the person who they know is caring for them, and they know she wants to make sure that they are successful. Her dog Bruiser, who I think is a long-haired dachshund, is that right? A mini dachshund, sorry. A mini dachshund is the unofficial mascot at Baylor Law School, and sometimes when we're approaching finals or other stressful points, Bruiser will make an appearance at the law school, but we'll need to edit this out of the video because that violates Baylor policy. I also, of course, the people I've just mentioned are but a small part of our faculty and staff who make it happen every single day. I want to thank all of them, and I would ask all of those who are members of our faculty and staff present here on the stage to please stand so that we can recognize you and thank you. I'm now pleased to call forward to the lectern our highest ranking student, Maxwell Tinney, to offer his remarks. Congratulations, Max.
Well, thank you, Dean Counselor, for taking half my lines. Appreciate that. There's 7 of us here, and I got to say that's got to be a record. And if it's not, I'm claiming it right now. Just want to say thank you to friends, family, faculty, and staff, everybody that made this possible today. Only 2 things I want to briefly talk about. things that I believe are cornerstones of being a Baylor lawyer, and that's hard work and service. Now, my kids are probably rolling their eyes right now, talking about hard work and service again. Dad, we get it. But I'm talking to you about hard work first because it truly is a differentiator. Let me share a quote with you. In this world, there is no substitute for putting in the work. No growth hack. People have tried to cut corners for as long and as hard work has been hard. Working your butt off is the only thing proven to work for 100% of the things worth achieving. Work works, and that's the bottom line. Can you guess who said that? The Terminator. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And love him, hate him, or indifferent, he knows a thing or two about hard work, right? I mean, he's a bodybuilding champion, international movie star, governor of California, and he did all this while saving the human race from the existential threat posed by Skynet, not once, but twice. And based on how things are going with AI, folks, we may need to call on his services again. But being a hard worker, it really is a differentiator and something I believe we can hang our hats on and we'll call upon. Because at some point in our careers, we're going to be tested. Those late nights preparing for a big trial, some real niche issue of the law where we have to do a ton of research. And it's at that time that we can grit our teeth and buckle down and work the problem. How do I know this about this group? Well, first, you chose Baylor. Now, I'm not going to take this opportunity to talk smack about the other schools. I'm just not going to do it. Won't talk about that ugly burnt orange color. Not going to talk about that cult out in College Station, hands off, the so-called 12th man. Any Red Raiders in the group, just keep your pistols holstered. We're amongst friends. But you chose Baylor, one of the only law schools in the nation that operates on a quarter system, which means that we're taking finals every 9 weeks while our colleagues in the semester system are doing that every 15. What wimps. And as Dean Counselor mentioned, one of the top schools for really ingraining in us the practical skills, not just talking about these highfalutin legal theories, but teaching us how to write, how to advocate, so that we can actually do the thing. And yes, the cold call is still alive and well at Baylor. And then there's this little tradition here at Baylor Law called practice court. I'm sure you've heard of this. It comes at such an interesting time in your time here at Baylor Law. It's in your third year. So while other schools are winding down and 3Ls are, I don't know, taking electives, maybe even seeing their families on the weekends, who thunk it, we're in the proverbial Thunderdome for 6 months straight. Now, I tell you more about the practice court program here, but a couple of our tormentors are actually sitting right behind me, and I'm not sure my diploma is good yet, so. But our hard work, graduates, is what got us here. And the discipline and the sheer willpower that we've developed over the past few years will be an asset in the years to come. So where do we go from here? Dean Tobin talked about something to us in our orientation, talked about our role as Baylor lawyers, capital B, capital L, to serve the vertical and the horizontal, serving the vertical, honoring God and the kingdom. And how do we do that? By serving the horizontal, our communities. So first and foremost, I want to thank the family, the friends, the neighbors, the spouses, the significant others that are with us, who aren't with us today, who helped us get to where we are right now. And what do we do with all this love and support that's been shown to us? Well, we help the next person in line. So I want to close by talking about a couple questions that I had asked my fellow graduates before coming up with the speech. And the questions were, what kind of law are they going into? And what made them choose to go to law school in the first place? Kate Atwood is going to go into medical malpractice defense work. And she said, She's always had a very strong sense of justice, right and wrong. And she believes that the law is the most powerful tool for advocating change and protecting the rights of individuals. Kira Black. She's going into intellectual property. She talked about her deep passion for medical innovation and technology. This passion, along with her desire to help others, prompted her decision to pursue a career in IP law. Andrew Oliver, plaintiff's lawyer, who, I gotta say, I love this answer the best, chose to go to law school because after serving 4 years in the Marine Corps, he knew that it would be a comparatively easy task. Hoorah. He didn't say hoorah, I added that part at the end, but I think you're the only person, maybe one of the only person in the room who can get away with saying something like that, so good on you, brother. Anima Pandey, best practice court partner in the world, is going into patent law and chose law school because it felt like the right balance of challenge and opportunity, and she's always enjoyed the critical thinking and the problem solving, and law seemed like a field where she could apply those skills in a meaningful way. Connor Porter is going into criminal law, and he came to law school to use his academic strengths to be of service in a meaningful career with lots of variety. And Nylan Yancey is going into civil litigation. And he wanted to go to law school because he saw an opportunity to achieve something that people with his background rarely have an opportunity to do. And he wanted to be a part of a change in that unfortunate reality. Myself, I'm going into family law, so if you're keeping track, Connor and I are the only ones who aren't going to be making any money, so you want to be friends with these folks right here. Now, what was interesting to me when I read y'all's responses, I didn't tell my classmates I was going to be talking about service, but didn't you hear that theme? Repeatedly, meaningful impact. And I just love that about this group. I don't know if that's a Baylor law thing, just being a lawyer, but man, it's a great group to be a part of. To whom much is given, much is required. Baylor Law Fall 2024 graduates, I know we're up to the task, so let's get after it.
Maxwell, those remarks were fantastic. Hard work and service, that pretty much sums it up, what it means to be a Baylor lawyer. So thank you for those remarks. Sorry for stealing your lines. No chance I would ever steal the Terminator line. It would not occur to me. So you were definitely safe there. It's now my honor and privilege to introduce to you our commencement speaker. And once again, the bio is in the program, but the accolades are too numerous to mention. Liz Fraley is a member of our practice court faculty. She teaches procedure, evidence, and advocacy. She is a tremendously successful trial lawyer. Just a few of the accolades. She's been consistently named as a Texas super lawyer and named as one of the best lawyers by D Magazine ever since 2011. She's the author of numerous books and articles and a frequent and popular speaker around the country on a variety of topics, including on leadership, lawyers as leaders, and civil discourse. Our students are very fortunate to get the chance to learn from Professor Fraley. You know, the old saying, those who can do and those who can't teach, that definitely does not hold true for Professor Liz Fraley. She can do and she can teach. And one of the things that she does that I think is so remarkable and so special for our students is she doesn't just tell them, for example, how to make an argument to a jury. She can show them how to do it. And then also to have that deep intellectual and academic bent. Those two things in a single person are very rare. And so we are very lucky to have Professor Fraley on our faculty. Our students are lucky to learn from her, and you've chosen well in your commencement speaker. Professor Fraley.
Well, Well, that was lovely. No pressure now, right? So, good morning, as I start every practice court class. I'm just so pleased and grateful to be with you here today. I know that Dean Counselor told you this before we walked in, but this is one of those moments that's easy to write off as just checking the box, coming to graduation, and yet I am such a believer in really being in this moment. Because when you receive that diploma, it will say Juris Doctorate, Baylor Law School. But what you have really done is graduated from the school of how to do extremely difficult things. And I keep trying to get them to put that on the website and then the marketing materials, and they just won't do it. They seem to think that the school of learning to do very hard things might put people off. So we call it practice ready and some other nice euphemisms, and that's terrific. But the truth is that you have indeed spent 3 years learning how to do very, very hard things. And we think that's so important because you're going to need to do very hard things in the future. Your clients will need you to do very hard things for them. Your colleagues, you know this from just spending 3 years with each other, will need you to help them do hard things. And goodness, our community is going to need you to do hard things. And so I want to tell the rest of you who maybe have not been through Baylor Law School what this curriculum of doing hard things looks like. So first of all, when the students come to get their materials from practice court, some of you may be envisioning those leather-bound tomes that you see in libraries, staged by people like Chip and Joanna Gaines. And it looks like something you should carry. Instead, I want you to envision what they actually get, which is more like that cartoon where an entire mountain of documents falls and they have to bend their knees to get it, right? There's no carrying a single book. They have to have crates with wheels to be able to carry the materials for that one class. And it can feel like a very hard thing to be given that and expected not only to read it every single night, but then to be called on every morning to have to stand and process it and apply it, that dreaded cold call of Ms. Atwood, and feeling your heart race, right? And hoping that you will not be the one who faints or throws up or cries in the middle of your cold call. And so amassing that incredible amount of information and being able to use it skillfully as a tool to understand not just the words on the page, but the impact that it will have is one of the very hard things that you have learned to do. Now, spoiler alert, this skill is going to come in handy about February when you take the bar, because they're going to give you a good bit of information to look at as well. The next thing that I think is one of the hard things that you learn to do is to stand up and look people in the eye and have to come up with answers to difficult questions. We certainly have a lot of difficult questions right now that need to be answered. And it's hard to do on the spot, right? It's especially hard to do if you have a practice court professor giving you the famous icy glare and expecting you to come up with the answer that they're looking for. But that is a skill that you have learned how to do, because standing your ground, thinking on your feet, advocating for a position that you know to be right is a very hard thing to do. And so the fact that you now have practical training in doing that is going to help you when you are called on to do it on behalf of a client who doesn't fit neatly on a piece of paper, but who is a three-dimensional living and breathing soul who is putting their trust in you. And all of that terror and anxiety that you felt, they will be feeling as well. And you will be the person in whom they put their trust. And you will have the courage to tamp down that fear, that anxiety, because you've done it before. You know what it's like, and you know that you are battle tested. And that's why it's part of our curriculum in the School of Doing Very Hard Things. You know, and in education, we talk sometimes about the hidden curriculum, things that we don't actually put on the paper, on the syllabus, but there's a big hidden curriculum that I think you've gone through as well. I think that you have found a good bit about civility, how to be civil, how to disagree without being disagreeable. And goodness, that is a skill that we need right now. You know, the word civility actually comes from the French civilitas, which shares the same root as citizen. And so as you found the ability to disagree with each other, and to do so still honoring that sense of professionalism, you were learning the curricular aspect of becoming a good citizen, something else that we need today. You also learned a lot about how hard it can be when things don't go well. Not everything you plan. Think of all those arguments that you carefully practiced in your head, and then you stood up in the courtroom and it was nothing like it was in your head. In fact, it may have been called disastrous. And you think, this was so hard. But you learned integrity and resilience in those moments. You learned that the measure of a life is not when everything goes right. The measure of a life and character and integrity is how you behave when things go wrong. And while we don't put that in any syllabus, it is a lesson that we hope you learn over and over and over again, because things will not always go well. You will make mistakes. You will have disappointments. You will have challenges. And knowing that you already have a track record of standing up, doing the right thing no matter how hard it is, well, that is a huge part of the curriculum of becoming a Baylor lawyer. But I would not be a practice court professor if I didn't send you out with another assignment, right? So consider this your memo for life. A few extra assignments I'd like you to undertake. You may have noticed that we are coming out of a particularly ugly and divisive election. If you were unaware of it, surely you noticed you couldn't watch a football game without commercials coming up accusing everybody of biting the heads off of children under a full moon, whatever the flavor was, right? But I think the tenor of that highlights how much this homework will be needed by your colleagues, by your clients, by our community. And because you are willing to and trained to do hard things, these are some things I'd like you to consider. You know, your clients will come to you with genuine problems that to them seem insurmountable. They may be facing prison or even death. Their families may be breaking up. They may find their career challenged by accusations of carelessness and neglect. They may have had a creative idea that has been taken from them and appropriated by someone else. And that's just a starting list, right, of the kinds of things. And they will feel desperate. They will feel that they have no control, and in many ways they do not. They won't understand the system, and if the statistics are any indication, they won't trust that our system is one that actually dispenses justice. And so you will need to restore their faith that justice is truly available, that there is an advocate who will work for them and do so in a way that is professional and is geared towards resolution, not conflict. Adversary does not mean enemy. And there will be so many times where you will work to find a path forward. It is a sacred responsibility. You'll face outcomes that are not what you want, but understand that in the midst of that, you are not in the outcome control business. You are in the business of doing your level best, of constantly pursuing excellence, not perfection. And that when you do that, no matter the outcome, you have served as the kind of servant leader that we hope for you to be. And don't forget that it is your client's case, right? This is part of your homework. It's not all about you, princess. I was once asked to speak by the Dallas Bar Association with a very Tony panel of high-profile lawyers. And the topic was The Biggest Loser, Lessons I've Learned from Losing at Trial. Now, this is a dubious honor, right? Because you have to be recognized as being kind of a big loser to be asked to come talk about that. But you know, I think it was a really important lesson for us all to reflect on and to share. We live in a culture that does not always recognize that a loss does not mean you were a loser. We got to joking about who was actually the biggest loser because these were lawyers who tried bet the company cases. And one of them even brought a PowerPoint slide with how many hundreds of millions of dollars he had lost in different verdicts. But what we were really saying was, come on, profession, let's acknowledge that doing battle honorably, that being willing to be, as Brene Brown says, the one down in the pit getting sweaty and bloody and muddy, is the profession. The outcomes are nice when they are favorable, but they do not determine our effort as lawyers. And if we ever start to believe, and all you have to do is look on LinkedIn or in the Texas Lawyer and see the humble bragging advertisements about, we want to congratulate my colleague who got $900 million for so sorry. No, that is putting the focus in the wrong place. It is not about us and about our achievement any more than we should feel shame when we lose. It is true that I have learned more from every case I have lost from the many that I have won. And so I charge you, when you get a bad outcome, humbly and candidly reflect on, was your effort what it needed to be? Did you truly do all that you could? And if the answer is yes, then accept it with the same grace you would have accepted a win. If the answer is no, then promise yourself and every future client to do better, to learn from that, to grow from that. This is not a craft that is ever honed to its finest edge. It is a constant battle to be better. And so continue to be better, and never let the ego of win or lose predominate over the interest of justice. The next thing I will charge you to do is be curious. Remain interested and interesting. You know, when I was growing up, if we ever said to my mother that we were bored, we were handed an old toothbrush and Comet and sent to scrub the grout in the bathroom so that the tile was white. And so we learned very quickly that you didn't say you were bored around my house because we didn't want to figure out if there was a fate worse than the toothbrush and the Comet, right? But being curious is a skill that we really need right now. Because as lawyers, we're trained to have all the answers, but that means that we sometimes don't ask questions and strive towards understanding. You know, the divisiveness of this election, I think, highlights the need to be more curious, because we had a number of well-known authorities, people who would post on social media or Wikipedia or political ads telling us what was absolutely right and absolutely wrong, and what was absolutely missing from that was any effort at understanding why. Why did they believe that? Why did they feel that way? And so I think lawyers who have been trained as you have to ask good questions should lead the charge of being curious minds, because we will never solve big problems if our only insistence is on being right. A dear friend, Johnny Marostica, came from a big Italian family, and in his first year of marriage, he went to his Italian grandfather, who'd been married for 60 years, and said, "Papa, how have you stayed married? Regina drives me crazy." And he said, Gianni, every morning when you wake up, you have to ask yourself a single question. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy?" As citizens, right will not fix a single problem, but happy might. When you disagree with a lawyer on the other side, being right will not build consensus. And so instead of being doggedly insistent on being right, instead be willing to be curious. Be willing to ask, why do you think that? Tell me more about that. Because shockingly, there are times when we don't know everything. My sister and I differ very much politically, and we swear we're going to start a podcast called Sisters Meet in the Middle. Because when we talk, we will start off, well, my arms aren't long enough for how far apart we are on some things. But what we find is that when we talk about it, we often share values. Think about the challenges with immigration in our country. I think most people would say we want a secure border. I think most people would say we want to treat every human being with dignity. I think most people would say there should be a meaningful, doable path towards becoming a citizen and consequences if you don't. It doesn't require us to be opposite and right when perhaps we share more values. So be curious enough to ask the questions to find commonality, because in that way lies consensus, and I think in that way lies solutions to big problems. And in that way as well, you will remember that they and them are humans too. Anytime we they and them, they're so difficult, they're so unreasonable, we dehumanize them. And when you take the time to talk to people, it is very difficult to ignore the fact that they are the same flawed human beings that we are. And that brings me to my last point, and I think Max did a lovely job of alluding to this. Remain part of a human community. I am happy for you to have a TikTok community, but that is not human contact. We are fighting an epidemic of loneliness in this country at a time when supposedly we are more connected than ever. Be the one who reaches out. Be the one who connects. Have coffee, take a walk, pick up the phone, make a date, invite people for dinner, and don't worry if your house is clean or if you cook well. People don't come for that. They come for the connection. And the truth is that the research by Waco's own Sean Acor, who went on to Harvard to do his work on positivity and success, said this: most people keep waiting on happiness, putting off happiness until they're successful or they achieve some goal, and that formula doesn't work. Living a connected, meaningful life with every little moment of happiness, his research finds, if you don't want to just believe me, is a proven path to success. So never believe you have to trade one for the other. I leave you then with my favorite benediction, because my job is now to shut up and we can get on with this business of graduating. Life is short, and we have little time to gladden the hearts of those who make the journey with us. So be swift to love and make haste to be kind. And the blessing of God, who made us, who loves us, and who travels with us, be with you now and forever. Amen.
Thank you, Professor Fraley. Liz, that was wonderful and timely, and students, I hope you will mark Professor Fraley's words and follow her advice. I will now invite Dean Wilson forward for the presentation of the class.
Graduates, let me congratulate you as well and ask you to stand. Dean Counselor, the candidates before you have completed the requirements of the degree of Juris Doctor as prescribed by the faculty of the School of Law and Baylor University, acting through the authority of its Board of Regents. It is my pleasure to present to you the class for the conferral of the degree.
Each of you has completed the requirements of the degree of Juris Doctor as set forth by Baylor University School of Law. Upon the certification of the Faculty of Law, and on behalf of the Baylor University Board of Regents, it is my pleasure to confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor. Students, you may be, or students, what am I saying? Graduates, you may be seated. It's a little hard to let them go sometimes. We will now proceed to the part you've been waiting for, which is the presentation of the awarding of the diplomas. We'll move to the awarding of the diplomas. Now, I want you to think about kind of where we are right now. We are in a historic Baptist church. So as your graduate walks across the stage, I need you to maintain a certain solemnity. No hooping and hollering. I'm just kidding. You make as much noise as you can muster. If you left the cowbell or the boat horn in the truck, if you're quick, you can get it back in here. Here's the thing. We play a little game here up on the stage. We monitor how much noise you make. We measure your love of your graduate by how much noise you make when they come across the stage. And we are keeping score. Let's go forward.
Catherine Elizabeth Atwood. Kira Shane Black. Andrew George Oliver. Anima Pandy. Connor Thomas Porter. Maxwell David Tinney, cum laude, highest ranking student of the graduating class. Nylan Wendell Yancey.
I think we should congratulate them one more time. Based on the noise, there is a lot of love in the room. It's a photo finish. We have to go to the video replay, and I'll have to give you the winner later on. Graduates, congratulations again. We're very, very proud of you, and we look forward to all the ways in which you will serve your families, your community, our profession, our state, and beyond. You are going to make us very proud. In just a moment, we will close the formal part of our celebration. As we do, a few notes. First of all, please, all of you, join us over at the Law Center. We have a reception there with food, and the classrooms will be open so your graduate can take you through and show you where exactly they suffered all these things they've been complaining to you about for several years. So it's a really wonderful time, and we encourage you to join us at the Law Center immediately after our ceremony concludes. So the second thing is we will recess out. As we came in, we'll recess out, and I'm going to ask you all to remain where you are while we do that, and we're going to exit the same door we entered, and then we are immediately going to come back through these doors over here and come to the front where we'll take a group photograph. We are going to look to pose for our official photographer. Please don't ask them to look at you, okay? Because then our eyes are all over the place. We're going to get the official photo first, and then when that's done, you start snapping. Okay, we'll stay up here as long as we need to, okay? And then we will recess out after we've taken the picture for a final time. Before we end, I want to thank the people that make this lovely ceremony and commencement possible. Jerry Cunningham, who's our registrar, and Susie Daniel, who is instrumental, both of whom are instrumental in putting this together, along with Lauren Porter, who is here today. I want to thank all of them. Our IT team, Rick Soul, Ricky Levetsky, and Lori Lind, and the reception that I just mentioned was put together by Sam Smith. I want to thank our student workers who have seen here this morning, Mike Chappell, Belia Fernandez, and Reagan Havel, the staff of the First Baptist Church who allows us to use this lovely space for our commencement ceremonies, our photographer Eric Ogell back there, and our pianist Chris Womack. Thank you very much. So I will just leave you all with a final thought. You heard it in Connor's prayer. You heard it in Max's speech. You heard it from Professor Fraley. What we believe lawyers do is they serve, not primarily themselves, but others. And so I will leave you with, in a Baptist church, I will leave you with the thoughts of an Anglican cleric that we have shared at the end of graduation for a long time, the words of John Wesley. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can.